When people imagine the ultimate dinosaur predator, one name usually dominates: Tyrannosaurus rex. But travel back roughly 150 million years and T-Rex doesn't exist. Not yet. Instead, the late Jurassic landscape of Western North America belongs to a very different giant. A predator with three-fingered hands, powerful hind legs, a massive skull armed with serrated teeth, distinctive ridges above its eyes, and a body built to attack some of the largest animals ever to walk the earth. Allosaurus. For millions of years, Allosaurus lived alongside enormous sauropods, heavily armed stegosaurs and other dangerous predators. It wasn't simply surviving among giants, it was hunting them. But exactly how? Was Allosaurus a powerful bone-crushing predator like T-Rex? Did several Allosaurus hunt together? Could it really attack enormous sauropods? And what would happen if an Allosaurus somehow came face-to-face with a Tyrannosaurus rex? Today, we're traveling into the late Jurassic to meet one of the most successful large predators of its age. This is Allosaurus, the true king before T-Rex, and its story is far more fascinating than simply being the dinosaur that came before the king. To understand Allosaurus, we need to travel not only into prehistoric time, but also into one of the most dramatic periods in the history of paleontology. The late 19th century. American paleontology was exploding with new discoveries. Two rival paleontologists, Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope, became famous for their fierce competition during what became known as the Bone Wars. New dinosaurs were being discovered and named at extraordinary speed. And in 1877, Marsh named a remarkable new theropod, Allosaurus fragilis. The name Allosaurus roughly means different lizard, or other lizard, referring to features of its vertebrae that seemed unusual compared with dinosaurs known at the time. But those first fossils revealed only part of the story. More discoveries followed, and one location would become especially important: Cleveland Lloyd Dinosaur Quarry in modern Utah. Thousands of dinosaur bones have been recovered there, with Allosaurus unusually well represented. Exactly why so many predators accumulated there remains debated, but the site has provided scientists with an extraordinary window into Allosaurus anatomy and variation. Another famous specimen, nicknamed Big Al, became especially valuable because of its relatively complete skeleton. Big Al's bones also preserved evidence of numerous injuries and diseases. Broken bones, infections, damaged feet, evidence of a life that could be brutally difficult. And suddenly, Allosaurus wasn't simply a collection of fossilized bones. Those injuries allowed scientists to begin reconstructing the life of an individual animal. A predator that hunted, fought, was injured, recovered from at least some of those injuries, and continued living in one of the most dangerous ecosystems in Earth's history. To understand why Allosaurus became such an important predator, we need to understand its world. Much of what we know about Allosaurus comes from the Morrison Formation, an enormous sequence of late Jurassic rocks spread across large parts of western North America. Around 155 to 145 million years ago, these landscapes could include rivers, floodplains, forests, and seasonally dry environments. And the animals living here were extraordinary. Imagine standing beside a Jurassic floodplain. In the distance, an enormous Diplodocus moves through the landscape. Nearby could be Apatosaurus or Camarasaurus. These weren't simply large herbivores. Some sauropods reached lengths of more than 20 meters. But size wasn't the only defense available to Jurassic herbivores. There was Stegosaurus. Its back carried enormous plates. Its tail carried dangerous spikes capable of causing serious injury. Smaller herbivorous dinosaurs also occupied the ecosystem. And Allosaurus wasn't necessarily the only large carnivore. Other theropods, including Ceratosaurus and Torvosaurus, lived in parts of the same broader ecosystem. This raises an important question. How could multiple large predators coexist? They may have differed in preferred habitats, prey choices, hunting behavior, or feeding opportunities. But reconstructing ecological relationships from fossils is difficult, and many details remain uncertain. What we can say is that Allosaurus was extremely successful. Its fossils are abundant enough that it has become one of the best-known large theropods from the Jurassic. And that means Allosaurus gives us something extremely valuable: Not simply a spectacular dinosaur, but a window into how large predators lived before tyrannosaurs became the dominant giant predators of the Northern Hemisphere much later in the Cretaceous. At its core, Allosaurus was a large theropod dinosaur. Many adults were roughly 8 to 9 meters long, although estimates vary between specimens and larger individuals existed. Its body was balanced over powerful hind limbs. A long muscular tail extended behind it. Its arms were considerably larger relative to its body than those of T-Rex, and each hand carried 3 clawed fingers. But perhaps its most recognizable feature was its skull. Above the eyes were distinctive bony structures. These helped give Allosaurus its unmistakable appearance. Its jaws contained dozens of sharp, serrated teeth. Think less about smooth knives and more about steak knives. Those serrations helped slice through flesh. When teeth were damaged or lost, new teeth could replace them, as in other theropod dinosaurs. But here is where Allosaurus becomes especially interesting. Scientists have spent decades studying how its skull and jaws handled stress. Compared with the incredibly robust skull and enormous bite forces associated with T-Rex, Allosaurus appears to represent a different predatory design. Some biomechanical studies have suggested that its bite force may have been relatively modest for an animal of its size. That does not mean Allosaurus had a weak feeding system. A predator is more than a single bite force number. Its skull, neck muscles, teeth, jaws, body, and behavior work together. Some researchers have proposed that Allosaurus may have used powerful movements of the head and neck while feeding. Other proposed feeding models have compared its attack to a rapid slashing action. Exactly how these movements worked in living Allosaurus remains debated, so the safest conclusion is also the most interesting. Allosaurus probably wasn't simply an early version of Tyrannosaurus. It was a predator built differently. Its arms also deserve attention. 3 powerful fingers tipped with claws could potentially help grip prey, although exactly how frequently they were used during attacks is difficult to determine. Then there was the neck. Strong neck musculature may have helped Allosaurus control its head during biting and feeding. Combine those characteristics and we get a predator with multiple potential weapons. Jaws, teeth, claws, powerful legs, a muscular neck, and a body capable of confronting prey that could itself be extremely dangerous. But the most important weapon may have been something fossils cannot preserve directly: behavior. Because possessing weapons is one thing, knowing when and how to use them is another. Imagine an adult Allosaurus moving through a Jurassic landscape. Ahead is a herd of sauropods. Some individuals are enormous. Attacking a healthy adult giant directly would potentially be extremely dangerous. One kick could cause devastating injuries. A tail strike could be disastrous. So what does the predator do? We don't know exactly. Fossils cannot replay a hunt, but predators generally face a basic calculation: potential food versus potential injury. Juveniles, sick animals, injured individuals, or isolated prey may have presented safer opportunities than attacking the largest healthy adult available. And there is compelling evidence that Allosaurus interacted with giant sauropods. Fossil bones attributed to sauropods have been found bearing theropod bite marks consistent with large predators such as Allosaurus. But bite marks don't always tell us whether an animal was killed or scavenged afterward. That distinction matters. Allosaurus almost certainly wasn't above scavenging. Modern predators rarely reject free food simply because they didn't personally kill it. Now imagine another encounter. A Stegosaurus. This is a very different challenge. Its head is small, its body is heavily built, and behind it is one of the most dangerous defensive weapons in the Jurassic: a muscular tail equipped with large spikes. Evidence from fossils makes this predator-prey relationship particularly fascinating. An Allosaurus pelvis has been reported with an injury interpreted as consistent with penetration from a Stegosaurus tail spike. Meanwhile, Stegosaurus fossils have also preserved damage interpreted as possible theropod bites. The evidence doesn't allow us to reconstruct a specific dramatic battle exactly as it happened, but it demonstrates something important. Interactions between large Jurassic predators and heavily defended herbivores could be violent. For Allosaurus, hunting wasn't simply about strength. It was about surviving the attack. One serious injury could mean starvation. Big Al's damaged skeleton provides a powerful reminder of that reality. Predatory life was dangerous. The hunter was never guaranteed to win. Allosaurus has been studied for more than a century, and yet some of the most interesting questions remain unresolved. Myth number 1. Allosaurus was basically a smaller T-Rex. Not really. They were separated by tens of millions of years and belonged to different theropod lineages. Their skulls, arms, proportions, and likely feeding mechanics differed considerably. Calling Allosaurus a primitive T-Rex misses what makes Allosaurus fascinating. It wasn't waiting for evolution to produce something better. It was already extremely successful in its own time. Myth number 2. Allosaurus definitely hunted in packs. This remains uncertain. Multiple Allosaurus individuals have been discovered at some fossil sites, but multiple animals being fossilized together does not automatically prove coordinated pack hunting. They might have gathered around food. They might have become trapped in the same location. They might have interacted socially, or several different processes could have created the fossil accumulation. True cooperative hunting requires behavior that is extremely difficult to prove from fossil bones alone. Myth number 3. Allosaurus only killed prey. Almost certainly not. Scavenging is an efficient feeding strategy. A large predator finding a dead sauropod would have had little reason to ignore an enormous supply of meat. Allosaurus was probably both predator and scavenger depending on opportunity. Myth number 4. Every large Allosaurus fossil belongs to exactly the same species. Allosaurus taxonomy has a complicated history. Researchers have debated how many valid species should be recognized and how particular specimens should be classified. New research can change those interpretations. And that is how paleontology works. Science doesn't weaken when interpretations change. It improves as new evidence appears. Fact or fiction? Several Allosaurus skeletons found together prove that Allosaurus hunted cooperatively in packs. Fact or fiction? Think about it and tell us your answer in the comments before we reveal it. The correct answer is fiction, or more precisely, not proven. Multiple individuals at one fossil site can suggest interesting social possibilities, but they do not by themselves demonstrate coordinated pack hunting. We knew this comparison was coming. Allosaurus versus Tyrannosaurus rex. First, an important fact: they never met. Allosaurus lived during the Late Jurassic. T-Rex lived during the Late Cretaceous, roughly 66 to 68 million years ago. More than 70 million years separated them, but comparing their anatomy reveals how different giant theropod predators could be. Allosaurus, generally lighter built, 3 functional fingers, longer arms relative to body size, distinctive structures above the eyes, sharp serrated teeth, a skull adapted differently from the massive, heavily reinforced skull of T-Rex. Tyrannosaurus rex, much later, generally larger and more massively built, 2-fingered hands, enormous skull, exceptionally robust teeth, extraordinary estimated bite forces, a predator capable of damaging and crushing bone. If the two somehow fought, there is no scientific experiment that can answer that question. Body size alone would probably give a large adult T-Rex a substantial advantage over a typical Allosaurus. But that hypothetical battle misses the more important point. Allosaurus did not need to defeat T-Rex, it needed to survive its own world. And it did, for millions of years. The more meaningful comparison is therefore not which dinosaur wins. It's how did two successful predators evolve different solutions to the same fundamental challenge, catching enough food to survive? That question tells us far more about evolution. For more than a century, scientists reconstructed dinosaurs primarily from bones. Today, the toolkit is far more sophisticated. CT scanning can reveal internal structures. Computer modeling can test how skulls respond to forces. Biomechanics can estimate ranges of motion. Microscopic analysis can examine bone growth. Pathologies reveal injuries and disease. 3-dimensional digital models allow researchers to test ideas that would have been impossible for earlier generations of paleontologists. And emerging technologies may push this even further. Artificial intelligence could potentially help researchers analyze enormous fossil datasets, compare anatomical structures, and identify patterns. But technology cannot magically tell us exactly what an extinct animal did. Models depend on assumptions. Reconstructions contain uncertainty. New fossils can overturn old interpretations. And that makes Allosaurus especially exciting, because the dinosaur we imagine today isn't necessarily identical to the Allosaurus scientists will reconstruct decades from now. Perhaps new fossils will provide stronger evidence about social behavior. Perhaps biomechanics will clarify how its feeding system worked. Perhaps new discoveries will reveal previously unknown differences between species. Each fossil adds another piece, and more than 140 years after Allosaurus was named, we're still assembling the puzzle. That is the lasting importance of this dinosaur. Allosaurus isn't simply a famous Jurassic predator. It demonstrates how science reconstructs an animal that disappeared roughly 145 million years before humans ever existed. One bone, one tooth, one injury, one footprint, one discovery at a time. Today we met Allosaurus, a predator that ruled parts of the Jurassic world long before Tyrannosaurus rex appeared. We discovered that Allosaurus lived roughly 155 to 145 million years ago and became one of the most prominent large predators known from the Morrison Formation. We explored its distinctive skull, serrated teeth, three-fingered hands, powerful hind limbs, and muscular neck. We saw that it lived alongside enormous sauropods and heavily defended dinosaurs such as Stegosaurus. We learned that fossil injuries provide remarkable evidence of just how dangerous life could be, even for a top predator. And we discovered something even more important. Allosaurus should not be remembered simply as the dinosaur that existed before T-Rex. It deserves its own throne, because millions of years before Tyrannosaurus became one of history's most famous predators, Allosaurus was already king. And somewhere beneath the rocks of Western North America, another fossil may still be waiting to change everything we think we know about it. But our journey through prehistoric Earth isn't finished. There are thousands of dinosaur stories still waiting to be told. So which dinosaur should we meet next? Ceratosaurus? Stegosaurus? Diplodocus, or another prehistoric giant entirely? Tell us in the comments. And if you enjoyed meeting Allosaurus, like this video, subscribe to Meet the Dinosaurs, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next journey into prehistoric Earth. Continue exploring dinosaurs, prehistoric life, and the incredible discoveries of paleontology at meetthedinosaurs.net. Thank you for watching Meet the Dinosaurs, part of the MP Nerds ecosystem. And remember, the dinosaurs disappeared. Their stories didn't.